there, good afternoon and welcome to The Nation. I'm Tamina Kausji in our studios at the Bernama News channel, and today we're going to be speaking about a very pertinent issue to all Malaysians out there, especially young Malaysians who are getting set to go ahead with their paths in life, especially via marriage. So today I have with me in the house, first of all, Ms. Khoo Ai Lin, who is the Chief Marketing Officer of Prudential Assurance Malaysia Berhad, to speak about marriage and financial planning. Hello Ai-Lin, how are you this morning?
Good, thanks Tamina. How are yourself?
I'm really great. All right, so thanks so much for taking the time to come in, Ai-Lin. And now, first off, I have to ask, now, when people think about wedding bells and marriage and this big, huge, happy event in their lives, they rarely think about financial planning.
That's right.
Now, how can that actually bode ill for the future of couples who intend to get married or those who are already married but haven't given a thought to it?
Okay, we are one of the leading financial insurers.
That's right.
And basically, the key thing that we're looking at is innovative products. So if you look at it from that perspective, how does it drive innovative products? And the very key thing is, the fundamental philosophy is to listen and to understand customers' needs. So looking at that, back to your question just now, when we talk about listening and understanding, Prudential Corporation Asia has actually embarked on a relationship index. And this is a survey that we do across 10 countries.
Oh, I see.
And Malaysia being one of the countries. And it will be a survey that will be done on an annual basis.
Right.
What it seeks to do is actually to understand relationships. Relationships between families, between friends, relatives. And through those understanding and the findings is where we try to look at solutions to address those needs.
Right. Now, in your Prudential Relationship Index for 2016, would you mind sharing with us some interesting insights about Malaysian women, as we were speaking about a little bit earlier, just before we went on air?
Yes. It's very interesting about when you look at the Relationship Index, and when initially we were thinking about very serious stuff that would come out. But when you talk about relationship, it was very interesting. One of the key things that came out of it was women tend to enjoy in a relationship where there's a lot of laughter.
Right, okay.
So if you look at it, a healthy relationship basically leads to a lot of well-being, longer life, and a healthy and happier lifestyle. And what are the driving factors? And one of the key things that we need to really understand is that also on the flip side is basically looking at what is the common concerns in families, and basically what are the common arguments on the flip side. And if you look at it, back to just now when you said about marriages and couples, right? One of the key things, in fact, out of the common arguments, right, it's basically pertaining to money being the first one. In fact, 50% of common arguments are based on financial concerns.
50%.
50%
I'm not surprised
is very
to hear
high.
that.
Yeah. And the second thing is, interestingly, is inattention. People lacking that kind of attention between each other, and that leads to, I'm not listening to you enough, you're not listening to me enough. Then the third thing is children.
Okay.
So these are the three things, and while we listen to that, what are the key solutions that we need to look at to address these needs? So these are basically the key driving factors that we're looking at.
Now, I think it's also very interesting that despite being a financial planning company, Prudential is also very in tune with customers' needs, as you said, especially looking at this demographic. Now, as you mentioned, financial challenges, over 50% of couples disagree on this. Now, what in particular are some of the financial challenges which you feel might lead up to bigger problems in relationships?
Okay. I mean, if you look at it from a financial challenges, let's get back to some of the key findings first.
Okay, sure.
And one of the key findings is I would say how people understand each other, and that pertains mainly to the gender and husband and wife in the family.
Right.
Let me share something with you.
Okay.
You know, if you look at it, about 60% of men feel that they are the ones who make decisions on big financial spending, whereas
Right.
about 24% or so feel that they actually make, of women feel that they actually make financial decisions on big spending.
That's a huge divide.
Yes, huge.
Yeah.
However, what was interesting, how about the day-to-day spending?
Okay. Yes.
Day-to-day
I think
spending is a complete reverse.
There you go.
You
Right.
have 60% of the women feel that they make decisions on the day-to-day spending.
Naturally, that's
yes.
right.
Whereas about 24% of the men felt that they make decisions. So looking at that, you basically need to look at it on financial planning for the future,
Right.
as well as the day-to-day. So there are some couples, as we talk to them,
Right.
some they actually divide up.
Yeah,
the
between
financial-
short term, long term.
That's right.
Okay.
So that's
Right.
that's a very very key thing. And in terms of product and financial solutions, how do we cater to that? So how
Right.
do we look to the key decision maker in the family and basically look at how the household income is like, and we
Right.
actually do planning and products based on that. But you know, if you look at it, what are the key challenges?
Right.
A very key there are few key challenges here. In a person's lifetime, right? You go through different life stages,
Naturally, yeah.
right? And there are key milestones in a person's life within the stages. And a very key thing is before you get married, you're so
Right.
used to spending, planning for just yourself.
Yes. Living
And-
life as a single, basically.
Right.
Right.
And once they get married, a very key major milestone is marriage, where they start to plan together, wedding plans and stuff like that.
Right. The very
Right?
first big hurdle
Yes.
in a way.
Yes, there are a few key stages. Second one is when you start to buy a home,
Right.
right? And how do you segregate that? Who becomes the main or primary loan borrower,
Right.
and who becomes secondary, or is it joint, or is it just one single person? So that has certain bearings on decisions made. The third thing is when you have a child,
Right.
when you have a baby, right? And then your retirement plans. So these are the key things. And what is interesting is this, right? Whilst Malaysians at large, you know, couples, working couples, about 60%
Right.
of couples, they actually maintain separate bank accounts.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they maintain only separate bank accounts and without having a joint account? Is that what
Some
you mean?
they do, but they still maintain their separate accounts.
Right,
Compared
okay.
to only, I think, about less than 5% maintain a pure joint account
Oh, I see.
without
Okay.
any individual
Right.
account on their own.
Interesting.
Interesting, right? But another interesting finding is, whilst a majority maintain their two individual accounts,
Right.
when it comes to financial planning, Malaysians, based on the Relationship Index survey,
Right.
about 60% of Malaysians do their financial planning together as a couple.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
But at the
So-
same time, that last barrier, in a way, is
Yes.
still kept separate.
Yes.
Right.
So I think what is important is to be able to sit down and plan out, you know, what you need to do together.
Right.
As I mentioned, wedding plans, and that's the first milestone as
That's
a
right.
couple, all the way to retirement. And children, bringing up children is one thing, but children's education, as you know, is another.
Exactly.
And depending on where the children study in the future, where do you want to plan to send them to study overseas or local? Those are the plans that you cannot start much later. You have to
Exactly.
start upon the
It has
birth
to
of
be
your
part
child.
of your first 5-year plan.
That's right. That's
Okay,
right. Yeah.
right. Now, all of these are such fascinating findings. Now, if moving on into the marriage, the institution itself. Now, why, Eileen, would you say is that shared financial responsibility actually leads to a stronger marriage, stronger relationships?
Basically, if you look at it from that perspective, when you have shared financial responsibilities, you have lesser arguments on that.
Right.
Because you are very clear who does what, and when it comes to any particular person that has certain challenges, you tend to talk because you have started your planning right from the start.
Right.
Actually, one of the key things that findings is that about 59% of Malaysians as a whole also have financial support for their parents.
I see.
Malaysians.
Starting out as a young
Yes.
couple.
And
Right.
that's something that, outside of your immediate family, when you become a couple, and those
Right.
are the things that you have to start to discuss upfront.
Right.
So that
Early on as
yes,
well.
Yes,
Okay.
and you basically then have to respect each other. And another finding is that 70% of Malaysians
Okay.
actually value honesty in a relationship.
70%.
70%. So stable and financial planning and honesty within a relationship are the two key main factors to the question that you asked about having joint responsibility leading to a happier marriage.
Right.
Yeah.
Now this, of course, I mean, that is definitely the common sense approach and one that has the research and the backing to go behind it. Now, how about people being people in general? What about when lines of communication are blurred? For example, I would say any typical couple that we look at today, they may start off on the right foot, having a lot of honesty about many issues, but often finances sort of gets pushed to the side until it's literally time for the wedding, and then people start scrambling. So how do you open the lines of communication, and any advice that you have for young couples out there, especially based on the type of situations you have seen yourself over the years? Is it wise to just sort things out by yourself, or should you still take that step, overcome whatever psychosis you have, and talk to a partner and plan together?
I think communication is a very key thing. If you look at relationship, there are a few key factors: communication, commitment, compatibility. All the C's are very important.
Okay, all the Z's. I
Yeah,
like that.
all the C's, right. And if you look at that, commitment means making an effort. Making an effort on the communication, not just purely a commitment and a duty.
Right.
There is a difference from executing it as a duty and making it work by putting effort into it, right? And these are the findings whereby if you look at it, it's especially more obvious when it comes to 25 to 35-year-old Malaysians.
Right, okay.
Because what we have discovered is, in terms of being underinsured, this is the people within this age bracket which is the most underinsured.
Wow, underinsured. Wow.
Underinsured.
Now, just to repeat what Ai Lin said, underinsured 25 to 35, biggest bracket.
Yes, it's the
Wow.
biggest bracket, and that's the bracket that we really need to come in to help them.
Absolutely.
And this is the bracket where you mentioned about if they're about to get married, how do they plan? So this is an area where I would say a lot of people within that age bracket needs help.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So financial planning is very important. You got to consult people if you're not too familiar. But having that kind of communication, open communication at the start to plan out, to know your life stages. Because once you get into the commitment of a marriage, it's not just about planning for the marriage.
That's right.
It's about putting your plans in place post-marriage.
Right.
And if you can't get past that first stage, it will be very challenging. So it is once you start when you plan for the wedding, you've got to actually start the plan right from the start in those basically key stages in life, the 4 key stages in life.
There you go. So thank you so much for your time today, Ai Lin. It's been a pleasure. And thanks so much for joining us insofar speaking about marriage and the importance of financial planning. We'll take a quick commercial break, and when we're back, we've got another in-house expert to speak to you about the more relational aspect of the same topic. Stay tuned.